Let me ask you something today. How kind are you to yourself? I'm not asking how kind you are to your family, your friends, your coworkers, or even to strangers walking down the street. I'm asking about you. Because too often we are the first to forgive others, but the last to forgive ourselves. We pour love into everybody else's cup, but when it comes to our own, we let it run dry, and then we wonder why we're exhausted, broken, or feeling unworthy. You see, most of us carry a voice in our heads that doesn't belong there. A voice that says, "You're not enough. You should have done better. You'll never get there." And instead of silencing that voice, we entertain it. We feed it. We treat ourselves with the level of cruelty we would never ever show to somebody we love. Isn't that the truth? But here's the reality. You cannot give to the world what you don't first give to yourself. You cannot stand tall for others if you're always bending yourself down. So again, I'll ask you, how kind are you to yourself? You ever notice how the loudest voice in your life isn't the one outside of you, it's the one inside your head? That voice that wakes you up in the morning before you've even had a chance to breathe in gratitude. That voice that whispers at night when you're trying to rest, but instead it reminds you of everything you did wrong, everything you should have done, everything you think you'll never be. And the truth is, most of the time, we believe it. We let that voice write the script for our lives. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, you start living like you're not good enough. If you tell yourself you'll never make it, you stop even trying. Your self-talk determines the standard of your life because you become the words you repeatedly tell yourself. And here's the painful truth. Some of you are more loyal to your own self-doubt than you are to your own dream. You've been speaking defeat to yourself for so long that victory feels like a foreign language. But hear me, nothing changes until you change the conversation you're having with yourself. We've been conditioned to be our own harshest critics. From a young age, the world teaches us to compare, to compete, to measure our value against someone else's highlight reel. So when you make a mistake, instead of saying, "It's okay, I'm learning," you say, "I'm stupid, I always mess up." When you fall short, instead of saying, "I'll get better," you say, "I'll never be enough." Do you hear the difference? That's not just words. That's programming. That's the story you're writing into your own spirit. And the more you repeat it, the deeper it sinks. You start carrying shame, guilt, regret, waste that were never meant to be yours. You wouldn't talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself. You wouldn't call them a failure. You wouldn't tell them they're worthless, yet you tell yourself that every single day and you think it's normal. No, it's not normal. That's abuse. And it's self-inflicted. The most dangerous bully you'll ever face isn't out there, it's in here, inside your mind. And until you confront that bully, it will keep you chained to a version of yourself that isn't even real. Now listen, words have power. Don't underestimate that. Every word you say to yourself plants a seed. Some of you are walking around today with a garden full of weeds because of the seeds you planted years ago. You told yourself you were ugly, and now you can't look in the mirror without seeing flaws. You told yourself you were dumb, and now you doubt your intelligence in every room you walk into. You told yourself you were unlovable, and now you settle for anyone who gives you scraps of attention because deep down you don't think you deserve better. Do you see how this works? You are living in the harvest of your own words. But here's the good news. If you can plant weeds, you can plant flowers. If you can curse yourself, you can bless yourself. You can start speaking life, strength, courage, possibility into your own being. And just like the weeds grew, so will the flowers. But it starts with you saying something different. It starts with you refusing to water the lies and instead choosing to feed yourself with truth. And the truth is, you're stronger than you think you are. You're more capable than you give yourself credit for. There are victories in your life that you've already forgotten because you were so busy chasing the next thing. You didn't think you'd survive what you went through, but you did. You didn't think you'd heal from what broke you, but you did. That's proof that you are not weak, not a failure, not a mistake, but your self-talk robbed you of celebrating those wins. Instead of saying, look at me, I made it through, you said, I'm still not enough. And that's what I want you to see. The problem isn't always your reality, it's your language. You've been blessing your pain and cursing your progress. And the longer you keep talking down to yourself, the longer you keep yourself trapped in a prison that doesn't exist. The door is open, but your mind convinces you it's locked. Think about this for a second. How many times have you stopped yourself from pursuing something, not because the opportunity wasn't there, not because the resources weren't available, but because you told yourself you couldn't? How many times have you sat on a dream, sat on a gift, sat on an idea, simply because your self-talk was louder than your potential? That's the tragedy of it. It's not that the world denied you, it's that you denied yourself. You talked yourself out of blessings that had your name on them. And if you don't change that inner dialogue, you'll keep talking yourself out of your future. But here's what I know. If you start changing the conversation, if you start saying, I can, I will, I must, you unlock a power that was in you all along. You're not waiting on the world to change for you. You're waiting on your own words to rise up and lead you forward. Let me remind you, greatness doesn't start with applause, it starts with affirmation. Nobody can clap for you if you can't clap for yourself first. If you can't say, I deserve better, I am capable, I am worthy, then you will always rely on somebody else to validate you. And that's a dangerous life, because what happens when their validation runs out? What happens when the people you depend on stop clapping? If your self-worth depends on somebody else's hands, you'll never stand strong on your own 2 feet. That's why your self-talk matters. You can walk into any room, any stage, any battle, and no matter what they say about you, it won't shake you, because you already spoke life over yourself. That's what unshakable confidence looks like. It's not arrogance, it's assurance. It's the peace that comes from knowing, no matter what the world says, I've already spoken victory into my own soul. Some of you need to become your own encourager. You've been waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough, waiting for someone to remind you you're beautiful, waiting for someone to say you matter. But what if they never say it? What if the words you've been waiting to hear never come? Will you wither or will you rise? You have the ability to speak those words over yourself. You can wake up and say, I am strong, I am loved, I am capable, I am worthy of every good thing coming my way. That's not arrogance, that's survival. That's building a shield around your heart so the arrows of doubt and insecurity don't pierce you anymore. Every morning you have a choice to repeat the same cycle of self-doubt or to rewrite the script with affirmations that align with your destiny. Choose wisely, because your words are not just noise, they are directions for your life. And if you don't remember anything else, remember this: your self-talk is your foundation. It determines how high you can build, how far you can go, how much weight you can carry. If the foundation is weak, the structure will collapse. But if the foundation is strong, storms can come, winds can blow, and you will still be standing. So watch your words. Watch the way you speak to yourself when nobody's listening. Because in those quiet moments, you're shaping your destiny. And one day when you're standing in the middle of your breakthrough, you'll realize it wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It wasn't even other people's help. It was you speaking life into yourself, even when it felt like nobody else believed in you. You ever notice how people will take as much as you're willing to give? They'll pull, they'll tug, they'll drain, not because they're always malicious, but because they're human. And if you don't set limits, they won't find them for you. That's why boundaries are not just rules, they're lifelines. They're not about pushing people away. They're about protecting the part of you that makes you you. Too many of us confuse kindness with endless availability, thinking we have to say yes to every request, every favor, every demand. But let me tell you something. Constantly pouring into others while leaving yourself empty isn't kindness, it's neglect. You've been sacrificing your peace to keep everyone else comfortable, and you call it love. But love doesn't mean destroying yourself for others. Love starts with protecting your heart. your mind, your energy. And boundaries are the fences that keep your soul safe. Without them, you're a house with open doors in the middle of a storm. Everything and everyone comes in, and before long, you don't even recognize your own space anymore. Boundaries are not selfish. They are the highest form of self-respect. But here's the struggle. Most of us fear boundaries because we fear rejection. We think if we say no, if we draw a line, if we protect our space, people will leave us. So instead we bend, we break, we fold ourselves into smaller and smaller shapes just to fit into someone else's world. We silence our needs so we don't upset anyone else. And deep down it eats at us. We resent it. We feel trapped by it, yet we keep doing it because we think love means self-sacrifice without limit. But listen carefully. That's not love. That's bondage. And the people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries, not punish you for having them. If someone walks away because you told them no, let them walk. Your worth isn't tied to how much you can give without resting, without breathing, without living. Your worth is inherent. And boundaries are the way you honor that worth. They're not walls to keep love out. They're gates to allow the right love in. And let's talk about energy. You only have so much of it in a day, yet how much of it do you waste on people and places that don't feed you? Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to your own growth, your own healing, your own peace. Boundaries are like an investment. When you learn to say no to what depletes you, you create space to say yes to what restores you. You say yes to rest, yes to dreams, yes to people who actually celebrate you instead of using you. Some of you are tired, not because life is too heavy, but because you're carrying weights that don't belong to you. You've taken on everyone's problems, everyone's burdens, everyone's expectations, and in the process, you've abandoned yourself. That's why boundaries matter. They remind you that you are not responsible for carrying the whole world on your shoulders. You are responsible for protecting your soul so you can actually walk in the purpose you were created for. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's hard. It's hard to look someone you love in the eyes and say, I can't do that for you. It's hard to say, I need space. It's hard to draw the line when people are used to crossing it. But difficulty doesn't mean it's wrong. Difficulty means it's worth it. And the first time you say no, you'll feel guilty. You'll second guess yourself. You'll wonder if you're being cruel. But that guilt isn't truth. It's conditioning. You've been taught to equate self-sacrifice with love, so when you finally choose yourself, it feels unnatural. But over time, you'll realize that the guilt fades, and in its place comes peace. You'll sleep better. You'll breathe easier. You'll stop feeling like a prisoner in your own life. Because every boundary you set is a declaration. My peace matters. My time matters. My heart matters. And that is not selfish. That is sacred. And here's something powerful. Boundaries don't just protect you. They also teach others how to love you. People will treat you the way you allow them to. If you keep letting them talk to you any kind of way, they will. If you keep letting them cross lines without consequence, they will. But the moment you say, this is not okay, I deserve better, you raise the standard. You teach them that access to you is a privilege, not a right. And that's where the shift happens. You stop being used and you start being respected. Boundaries are the language of self-worth. They tell the world, I am valuable and I will not be treated like less. And when you start walking with that kind of authority, not everyone will like it. Some will resist it. Some will leave. But don't be afraid of losing people who are only there to exploit your lack of boundaries, because the ones who truly love you will rise to meet the standard you set. And I'll say this, your boundaries are not just about people, they're about habits too. Sometimes the hardest boundaries are the ones you set with yourself. Saying no to the procrastination that keeps stealing your time. Saying no to the negative environments that keep feeding your fear. Saying no to the distractions that keep you from your goals. That's self-kindness too. Boundaries aren't only about protecting yourself from others. They're also about protecting yourself from your own self-sabotage. And that requires discipline. That requires honesty. It requires looking in the mirror and saying, if I'm going to be kind to myself, I can't keep betraying myself. And that's powerful, because when you set boundaries with yourself, you stop waiting on willpower and start building structure. You stop being a victim of your own patterns and start being the architect of your own future. Now think about this. What does a boundaryless life look like? It looks like exhaustion. It looks like resentment. It looks like a constant cycle of giving and giving until you've got nothing left and then wondering why nobody ever gives back. But what does a life with boundaries look like? It looks like freedom. It looks like balance. It looks like waking up in the morning with energy instead of dread. It looks like surrounding yourself with people who don't just take but also pour back into you. And it looks like finally recognizing that you matter too. You're not here just to be everyone else's savior. You're here to live, to thrive, to fulfill your purpose. And that purpose will suffocate if you keep allowing the world to consume you. That's why every no you say to something that drains you is actually a yes to something that builds you. And that shift can change your entire life. And here's the final truth. Boundaries are love. Love for your time, love for your energy, love for your mental health, love for your future, love for the version of you that's been buried under years of people pleasing and silent suffering. You can't heal if you keep letting people reopen your wounds. You can't grow if you keep letting others trample on the soil where your dreams are planted. So protect yourself. Draw the line, speak up, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. And understand this, every time you set a boundary, you're telling yourself, I matter enough to protect myself. That's kindness in its purest form. And when you finally start treating yourself with that kind of love, you'll realize boundaries were never walls to keep the world out. They were bridges to bring you back home to yourself. Some of you are so focused on the finish line that you've forgotten to honor the steps it takes just to get there. You beat yourself up for not being perfect, not realizing that the very fact you're moving forward at all is something to celebrate. You want the mountain conquered before you've even learned how to climb. You want the masterpiece painted before you've even picked up the brush. And when it doesn't happen instantly, you start telling yourself, I'm not good enough. I'll never make it. But let me tell you something. The journey to greatness is not built on perfection. It's built on progress. Every small step you take, every mistake you learn from, every moment you push yourself to keep going when you wanted to quit, that is success. That is growth. And if you can't celebrate those little victories along the way, you'll rob yourself of the joy that's meant to fuel you for the bigger battles. Perfection is an illusion, but progress is real. And every single day that you show up, you're proving to yourself that you're not who you used to be. That's worth celebrating. The problem is, too many of us are addicted to outcomes. We measure our value only by results. If the business didn't explode yet, we say we're failures. If the dream hasn't manifested yet, we say we're wasting our time. But that's not truth. That's impatience disguised as self-doubt. You don't plant a seed today and expect a tree tomorrow. You don't train one day and expect to run a marathon the next. Growth takes time. And while you're so busy criticizing yourself for not being perfect, you're missing the fact that you've already made progress. Think about it. You're not where you used to be. You've grown in ways you don't even notice because you're so fixated on what's still missing. That's why you've got to stop for a moment and acknowledge the distance you've already traveled. Every scar, every lesson, every win, every stumble, it all counts, it all matters. And the one who learns to celebrate the small steps is the one who has the strength to finish the race. And let me remind you, perfection is not real. Nobody has it together the way they make it look on social media. Nobody's life is as polished as the pictures they post. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, and it's killing your joy. Perfection is a lie we've been sold to keep us feeling less than. But progress is tangible. You can see it in your growth. You can feel it in your resilience. You can measure it in the way you respond differently now compared to how you used to. Maybe you don't see the massive transformation yet, but the fact that you think differently, react differently, love differently, that's progress. And progress deserves celebration, because if you wait until everything is perfect before you let yourself feel proud, you'll never feel proud at all. You'll spend your entire life chasing a finish line that keeps moving further and further away. But when you learn to clap for yourself at every milestone, you'll build the courage and the faith to keep moving toward the next one. Think about the child learning how to walk. Do parents wait until the child can run before they celebrate? No. They celebrate every attempt, every wobble, every step. They cheer even when the child falls, because the fall means they tried. But somewhere along the way, as adults, we lost that spirit. We stopped celebrating the try, and we started punishing ourselves for not being perfect. That's why so many of us feel stuck, because we measure ourselves against impossible standards and then call ourselves failures when we don't meet them. But listen, you are not a failure for being in progress. You are not a failure for still learning. You are not a failure for still becoming. Progress is the proof that you're alive, that you're growing, that you're evolving into something greater. And if you want to keep moving forward, you've got to cheer for yourself the way a parent cheers for their child. You've got to say, I may not be where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. And here's the truth. If you don't learn to celebrate progress, you'll burn out, because the road is long. And if the only reward you allow yourself is perfection, you'll never feel the joy that sustains you for the journey. That's why people quit. That's why dreams die. Not because the dream was impossible, but because the dreamer didn't celebrate along the way. The marathon runner doesn't wait until the finish line to hydrate. They fuel themselves mile after mile. And you've got to do the same. Celebrate the chapters, not just the ending. Celebrate the small wins. The days you didn't quit, the battles you survived, the goals you moved a little closer to. Progress is fuel. Every small win you acknowledge is like oxygen to your soul. It gives you the strength to say, I can keep going. That's how you finish strong. Not by waiting until perfection, but by finding joy in every step you take. And let me tell you something else. Progress is often invisible until you look back. You don't notice yourself growing while it's happening, but one day you wake up and realize you've healed from the thing that once broke you. One day you catch yourself handling a situation with peace instead of anger. One day you realize the old you wouldn't have survived what you just overcame. That's progress. But if you're only looking for perfection, you'll miss it. You'll overlook your own strength. You'll dismiss your own growth. That's why it's so important to pause, reflect, and honor how far you've come. Write it down, speak it out loud, tell yourself, I'm proud of me. Because if you don't acknowledge your progress, you'll always feel like you're losing, even when you're winning. And the truth is, you've been winning more than you realize. And don't forget this, progress isn't always forward. Sometimes progress is knowing when to rest. Sometimes progress is walking away from what doesn't serve you. Sometimes progress is saying no when you used to say yes. Sometimes progress looks like failure, but it's actually redirection. The relationship that ended, progress, because you're no longer bound to what was breaking you. The job you left, progress, because you made space for something better. Don't limit progress to just achievements. Progress is any step that takes you closer to peace. Closer to purpose, closer to who you really are. And that's why you've got to celebrate it. Because every time you honor your progress, you're reminding yourself that your journey matters, not just your destination. So hear me on this. You are not defined by how perfectly you perform. You are defined by the courage it takes to keep moving forward, step by step, day by day. Progress is proof of life. Progress is proof that you haven't given up, even when you had every reason to. And that's worth celebrating. Don't wait until you've arrived to clap for yourself. Clap now. Celebrate now. And smile now. Because if you can find joy in progress, you'll discover that the journey itself is the reward. So after everything we've spoken about today, let this settle deep in your spirit. The way you treat yourself sets the tone for the life you will live. The conversations you hold in the quiet of your own mind, the boundaries you are willing to protect, and the ability to honor your growth, even when it doesn't look perfect. These are the building blocks of your destiny. Too many people walk through life chasing approval from others, waiting for the world to validate their worth, when the truth is, it has always begun with how you speak to yourself, how you protect yourself, and how you celebrate yourself. You don't need to be flawless to be valuable. You don't need to be endlessly available to be loved. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of joy. What you need is to treat yourself with the same compassion you so freely give to others. You need to build boundaries not as barriers, but as declarations of self-respect. You need to see progress for the miracle it truly is, because every step forward, whether visible to the world or not, is evidence of your strength, your resilience, your courage to keep going. And when the voice of doubt tries to whisper, when guilt tries to shame you for choosing yourself, when perfectionism tries to tell you you're not enough, remember this truth: kindness to yourself is not weakness, it is power. It is the anchor that keeps you steady when the storms come. It is the fuel that allows you to keep pouring into your dreams without running empty. It is the very thing that allows you to stand tall in a world that constantly tries to cut you down. So carry this with you. Be mindful of the words you allow inside. Be intentional about the limits you create, and be proud of the ground you've already covered. Because life is not about rushing to the finish line. It is about finding strength, peace, and gratitude in the steps along the way. And if you can master the art of being kind to yourself, you will find that you become stronger for others. 2. When you are whole, you can pour from a place of abundance instead of depletion. When you are at peace, you can spread peace. When you are kind to yourself, you radiate kindness to the world. So don't just leave here inspired, leave here transformed. Speak life over yourself. Protect your soul. Celebrate your journey. And watch how your life begins to rise to meet the words, the boundaries, and the gratitude you choose every single day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up for yourself. May you walk with strength. May you walk with peace. And may you walk with the unshakable truth that you are worthy of kindness, especially your own. God bless you.